Hi my friends, and welcome to my channel. I'm so happy to be with you today. I'm a network administrator, system admin. I'm just a computer professional who is very passionate about computing. And as you see, my mantra, keeping computers, networks and end users safe, creating a more productive and efficient work environment. That's what I love to do. That's what I'm passionate about. And in my video, I will just jump in quickly just to spend some time with you, especially those who are new, just venturing into the field of computing or taking their baby steps along the way. And I will just jumping in quickly just to share my experiences, and I also want you to subscribe to my channel that I will be putting out a number of other very interesting videos for you to look at. I mean, not to mention uh, Linux administration, Linux hardening, security. Reason being is that most of my videos most of the demos that I'll be using in these videos will be centered around Windows 10. So I definitely be putting out a video, subsequent video that also looks at Linux and how we can actually implement the various things that I will demonstrate in here as well. So without further ado, I know that you tech persons are very want to get your hands in the mud, like to see a lot of action to get things done. So let me quickly just jump ahead here. So what we have, guys, this is the new ecosystem that we are looking at, right? This is gone in the days when you used to have things isolated. Now everything is interconnected. Devices are connected everywhere. Mobile devices, servers, IoT devices, fridges, laptops, computers, printers, point of sale systems. Everything today is interconnected, right? And with that, then we recognize that the threat landscape has been increased. More hackers, more adversaries, more vulnerabilities exist that we as network professionals have to deal with, have to find ways to mitigate against, to ensure that our end users and corporations are operating safely as best as possible. Now, over the years, I've gathered a number of tools, procedures, experiences that can be used in our corporate world as well as from an individual perspective on our PCs to at least have a starting point to build some amount of resilience or security or hardening of our endpoint devices within our organizations. And one of the things I recognize is that many companies, as you're looking at my diagram here, many companies spend a lot on perimeter security. Alright, and perimeter can be from physical security, cameras, security guards, all of these things to protect their servers, to protect all their data centers, to protect the resources that are existing within the data centers to which our endpoint devices are connected to. With data centers without connected devices don't really make sense, because the information is what we seek to add to the information or to pull from the information. But in the process of adding and pulling data, then we have adversaries intercepting these endpoint devices to compromise organizations, and one of the things is that a lot of times persons take it for granted because you're not a large corporation, then you're not vulnerable, which is a sad mistake. Alright, so when we look here, we simply look at a simple network diagram, and this is our perimeter security, and as a process, companies spend millions of dollars on these, investing a lot to ensure that this is very hardened, this is very secure. But what I recognize is that over the years, and what I see happening is a lot of times, these are the weak links. These are the points that our adversaries exploit. A simple thing as leaving a unpatched system within a network, having a port open running on a end user device that should not be open, having an application installed that is not up to date, right? Having a user account running on a machine that should not be there before it is deployed or even on the network. Right? Simple things like those can make your end user devices vulnerable, which can also act as gateways or paths of destruction into your enterprise network. So when all of that money is spent, then and then you have things like this happening, then it's almost like a futile effort that has been done in essence. So just to kind of establish some basis here, just in the event that I might have somebody that is new, that is getting into network security, that is getting into computing, and over the years I've worked my way up from, being working on computer, PCs, PC repairs, network computing, system administration. So I know what it is at times trying to understand all of these pieces of things. So an endpoint is simply any device that connects to a network. Any device, and this could be printers, mobile devices, mobile smartphones, servers, all of these things that are connected to a data center, to a server, to pull data or to add data. These are defined or could be seen as endpoint devices on a network. And each of these endpoint devices has its own design, its own structure that requires a different approach as to how we go about hardening or applying security measures to these components. But one of the components that I'll be looking at is the Windows desktop or the PC, right? That's one of the most commonly used endpoint devices in our enterprise, and I spend a lot of time just so most of the demos that I'll be doing from this point we'll be looking at, I'll be using Windows 10, and it's not a matter of preference, but this is one of the most commonly used operating systems in the corporate world, right? So as I mentioned earlier, if you subscribe, then I'll be producing or putting out a lot of other videos that looks at how we go about enabling or hardening mobile devices, non-Windows devices that are connected to the corporate network. So stay tuned, you subscribe, and you'll definitely be able to get those alerts. Alright. So endpoint security is the practice of safeguarding the data and workflows associated with the individual services devices. Phones, tablets, laptops, desktops, all of this, whatever is connected to your network. That's what endpoint security is all about. Hardening those devices from our adversaries that seek to destroy our organizations and our data. Right? Now, simply yet powerful and inexpensive things, right, that you as a system administrator can do to help protect your endpoint devices. And I say simple yet because there are more advanced enterprise solutions that can be deployed, that can be used, very expensive, that can be used to ensure endpoint security is in effect. But what I recognize a lot of times that companies spend a lot of money on these software, and the true potential of these applications are not really used, right? So the simpler you can be in how you go about deploying security, then the more effective those security measures can be. At times we pour too many things, too many pieces, and that is where the loophole comes in terms of implementing the security. So what I'll be demonstrating is simple steps, things that you can do as an administrator to ensure that each endpoint device that is connected to your corporate network is safe. These are just a list of about 9 to 10 things that you can start out with as a checklist before deploying, and then over the years, over the weeks, then you can build onto these things with enterprise applications. And I said, if you stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, then I'll be showing you enterprise solutions that can be used to make deployment, and that can be also be used to add more value to make endpoint security more powerful as it relates to protecting your end users and the devices that connect to your network. Right, so without further ado, let me just jump quickly to that list. so that we could get our hands dirty. And for many of you, you might be familiar with these things before, but it's just a matter of reinforcing these things, right? So the first one is to user accounts control, looking at this encryption, antivirus, anti-malware, browser security, secure boot, disabling remote desktop, um, updates, right, enabling control folder access, and lastly backup. Now each of these things, we can do a very deep dive into all of these things, but for now I just want to keep it simple, right? Look at how we can do these things. Now it's for you as an admin, as an IT professional, to now build on this knowledge, to do further research. And a disclaimer to this is that you try these things, test, experiment within control environment before you actually deploy or do any of this within the corporate environment, especially in the cases of deploying patches. Test your patches, because I've come across in cases whereby you deploy updates from Microsoft or whichever application it is, and those updates actually break some other component of your network. In one instance, I had a case whereby we deployed an update on a computer, and the update actually disabled all the drivers to our our EFSA printers. So we had to uninstall that particular patch for those printers to work, right? So always test whatever I'll be demonstrating in my videos and upcoming videos within a control environment before deploying these things within your corporate environment. Alright, so let's just look at that quickly. So the first one that we want to jump to is user control. Alright, so before you actually, I'm just treating this in an instance whereby you're actually deploying a computer system for the first time, or it could already be on the network. Then you can go back and do these further checks. Alright, so first thing that you want to do is just to let me just quickly get rid of this screen here. Alright, so what you want to do is go to start. And the great thing about Windows 7, I think from Windows 8 up until Windows 10, you can easily type whatever it is that you want to look for. In this case, my PC. Alright, so my PC. Alright, so once you right click on my PC, you could either right click and go to properties or manage, or you could also go to manage here. Alright, once you go to manage, right, I'm using two screens here, so let me quickly just bring this across. Alright, so you go to manage, and one of the first thing you want to do is to ensure that you do not have any user that is on your local machine that is running local user account that might have administrative privileges that you're not aware of. That's one of the key things you want to do, right? Always never use your admin account. Create an account and then provides it with the requisite permissions on that system, right? One of the key things that is being employed as it relates to security is least privilege. Give the least privilege, then you add on to those privilege as is required, and by so doing, then you will mitigate against hackers in terms of exploiting accounts and the permissions that those accounts will have. So try your best not to use administrate as an account, but create an account that adds administrative privilege. In my case, this is me. Right. Let me quickly show you. So you go to new user, and you could say say this is new user. Alright, you create a password. Alright, never select this. Well, these options, in terms of what you select, is dependent on your organization policies. Right, so you would determine how you go about selecting password, never expire password, cannot change, things like this. You can work on those best fits. But for now, I will just set this and I'll create a password. And you can create what is known as a complex password, and there's a lot of debate as to what is a complex password. But in this case, I use a password that is 8 or more characters, a combination of alphanumeric keys, uppercase, lowercase. right? Once that is finished, the next thing you want to do is to select, go to groups, and from groups you have all the various accounts with the various permissions, right? Descriptions as to the power of all of these accounts, what they are used for. Like in the case, if you are a part of the administrator group, then you can do everything. If that account gets compromised, then this computer is basically um, can be exploited in any way and form, right? So in this case, I wanted to be a member of this backup operators. Then I simply go to this properties, and I could add myself to this group. So all I would have in this group is the, the privileges or permissions of a backup operator. That's all I would be able to do on this machine. Right? So if you go to this group, then you'll find new user there. Right? And you could do the same thing likewise for administrator. So when this user logs on, all he has permissions to do is to act as a backup operator. And then you could go through and you could disable, ensure that you do not have no account. Just in the case of guest, by default guest is disabled because guest account is vulnerable. Alright, so that's one thing that you can do to ensure that your system has a first layer of security before being deployed, or if it is already on the network. Alright, so let us look back at our list here to see the next thing that we want to do is to look at very powerful, very important, this encryption. And this encryption has to do with hashing the files on your machine according to various algorithm techniques that are there. So you can do a deep dive on those various disk encryption techniques, disk encryption tools. There are many out there. I mean, VeraCrypt, but one that is built in with Windows by default is BitLocker, and this is available, I believe, in the standard all versions except Home Edition. Right, so all versions except the Home Edition will have this feature. So you, in order to access encryption, you simply go start, go back to your control panel. Alright, so you can just simply type control. So type control, it automatically appears control panel. Right, and then you will see BitLocker drive encryption. And what encryption does is pretty much, as I say, hash the data on your file. So once you have system endpoint devices that contain enterprise data information, then it's very important to safeguard this information. So encryption does not protect against privacy or anonymity, but it does protect your data in terms of what a user is able to see on the machine. Right, and most of these encryption algorithms are very advanced, right, and it take a long time to actually decrypt these, and you can do further research on what's the best type of encryption that can be used. One of the things that can be done before deploying BitLocker is to ensure that you turn on what is called TPM, and I will tell you exactly what TPM is all about. Right? But before you actually turn on BitLocker, it's always good practice to deploy BitLocker on a new PC, in that you have less data to encrypt. So the longer you take and the more files you have on a PC, then the bit encryption process will be take a longer time. Alright, so before deploying bit encryption, it's always advisable to turn on a feature they call TPM. And what that does is that in order to decrypt your files on your computer, you have to enter a password in the encryption process. They will ask you to set up a password, right? But when you enter that password can be intercepted by rootkits or other programs, because those passwords are actually logged in memory, and those can be retrieved and accessed from memory. So what TPM does is add an additional layer of protection against any middleware that you want to access those keys that are used to decrypt your files. Right, now to get to this TPM feature before turning on encryption, you simply go to start. Once you go to start, then you type in GP edit, right? That's your group policy editor or local group policy editor. And this in of itself is a very powerful tool that you're looking at right now in terms of implementing security. This local group policy, you can do further researches on this. There are a myriad of things, combination of things that can be used to harden the way this computer operates and what can be done on it. And I said before, you can have security to a great extent, but not in totality, but at least you can do as much as possible to mitigate or to slow down the speed at which an adversary is able to move around in your computer system or on your network. Right, so once you get here, then you go to administrative templates, Windows components. Right, once you're at Windows components, then you go to BitLocker, drive encryption. Right, BitLocker, drive encryption. Right, once you're here, then you go to operating systems, drives. Right, and then from there you have, right, this is TPM, everything that has to do with TPM, then you can actually configure these options. Right, and TPM actually stands for Trusted Platform Module, and it's a security hardware that secures the BitLocker encryption keys. Right, so it protects the encryption keys from being intercepted. Once you turn on the policies, then you go to enable, and you could enable those from there. Right, and you have all of those additional features that you can actually look into. Right, pretty much all of those features can be turned on from there. So that's where you go before you actually turn on your BitLocker feature. Now once you start BitLocker, then it will prompt you for this to save to your cloud account, domain account, save to a file, print. I would strongly do not use this option, because if your account get compromised, then that key will not serve no purpose. At least save to a file. You could save to a file, which is good, but then again, then you would have to find a safe way to store this file, maybe in a file vault, key vault. Right, print the recovery key. You could also do this as an option, but also ensure that you keep this somewhere that is also saved, so that when the time comes for you to encrypt that data, it's very sad. It's a very sad situation when you find yourself encrypting data, and then when you need to use that data, then you're unable to, because you do not remember that key. Right, so this is very important. I will not be encrypting this drive right now. Right. Alright, so that's it for this encryption that you can do, and as I said before, you have VeraCrypt, you have TrueCrypt, as well as a number of other encryption software that you can use. Right? Antivirus, very important. Ensure that antivirus applications are deployed. Now it's a debate. The debate on antivirus and which antivirus is based on features that these antivirus have is a never-ending debate as to which one is better, which one does a better job. But you can actually do a research to see how they compare against each other. Search for antivirus comparisons. But one of the things is that Windows has its own built-in antivirus system, right, which is called Windows Defender. Right, so if you go to Windows Security, right, immediately you can actually turn on all of the features for antivirus, right? So you have virus and threat protection, and then, but the thing is that once you have a third-party antivirus installed, then you will not be able to access the features of Windows Defender, right? So in my case, I have semantic endpoint protection turned on, which is managing the security of this PC in terms of malware antivirus protection. So in your case, then always check to ensure that you have an antivirus system, some form of malware protection system that is up to date, that is running on your PC. Right? And then you can set the different policies within those antivirus in terms of whitelisting, what is quarantined, and all of these antivirus systems have their own form of configuration that you can look into. Right? A very simple browser and browser security is a topic in of itself, but I'm going to just show you one simple Microsoft recommended tool that you can use, and this can be used in any browser. Right? This is called uBlock. Right? And you can use uBlock, and I just give you a quick breakdown as to what uBlock is. A free open source platform cross extension for content filtering, including ad blocking. Right? So it does a great job at filtering, all unwanted ads that may pop up on your machine, things that are seen as malware. Right? So you could actually go quickly to add in uBlock. So once you click on uBlock origin, right, then you can add this as an extension, and it does a great job at what it says it does. Right, that you can add to your Chrome. That does a pretty job at protecting your browser. Right, you can even add features such as HTTPS anywhere to add an extra layer of security in terms of the data that you provide, especially forms and things like that on your website. For users, in terms of typing in password, getting access to company resources, then this add an additional layer of security that you can add to your browsers. Alright, so with that said, let us go quickly to back to our list. Right, now another thing that we want to look at is what they call secure boot. And secure boot is a special feature that is turned on to prevent unauthorized applications from starting up. Right, but this feature is normally turned on in the BIOS. So let us quickly look at what secure boot is all about. Alright, so secure boot. Alright, let us quickly look at that. So if you get here, then let me look at this one for you. Alright, let me just quickly jump to secure boot to give you more details as to what this is all about. So secure boot is a security standard developed by members of the PC industry to help make sure that a device boots using only software that is trusted by original equipment manufacturer. That's what OEM stands for. When the PC starts, the firmware checks the signature of each piece of boot software, including UEFI firmwares and drivers. So it's a wonderful feature that you can also enable to add an extra layer of security to your systems. Right? When you had UEFI drives, you also need to make sure that these are signed and included in the secure database. So it had an additional layer of security. Right? And it shows you the boot requirements and how you can actually go about implementing the boot sequence to turn on these additional layers of security in combination with the other measures that I've explained or demonstrating before. Another important feature that we want to look at is disabling remote access. Right? This is one of the components that is compromised a lot in a lot of organizations, because this feature is left turned on computers, endpoints, and what we have is that this is exploited and persons are able to log on to PCs, log on to servers, and then exploit these servers. Alright, so what we can quickly do is to go to start. Right, you can go to my PC, right click my PC, properties. Once you get to properties, then you have remote settings. Alright, once you get to remote settings, and this is where it is. Do not allow remote computers to connections to this computer. Alright, and you can also turn off what is not allow remote assistance to connection to this computer. You can turn off all these features. And in a corporate world, then you can turn these on only when required. Right? Once you are not using these things, then you turn them off, and you can also turn this on to select what users can connect to your machine. But I said before, it's always best to have these turned off by default to prevent persons from actually exploiting the remote desktop services, especially when they are running on servers. Alright. The next one is auto updates. Right, that has to do with patching. Right, very important. Patching can never be overemphasized. Right, so that is, let's see, Windows. Right, so Windows Update Settings. Once you click on Windows Update Settings, right, then you can download, you can pause, change active hours, view updates. Right, advanced options you could turn on, set the time when to receive updates, notification, select dates that you want. Right, but as I said before, in more enterprise environments, then the deployments of patches are normally done from a centralized location. Right, but in small organizations where you don't have such things in place, then you could actually set up these schedules. You could actually go in to these features and actually configure these according in terms of setting dates when you want to pause, when you want to update, just to ensure that your Windows update is actually running on the PCs to get the latest patches, right, that are necessary to keep your computer safe, as they would normally say. Right, very important. Keep your computers up to date with the latest patches. What patches do are basically are designed to remedy vulnerabilities that are discovered in the OS itself or in the third-party applications that are installed on the operating system. The eighth one that we are at now is to enable control folder access. It's a very powerful feature that was developed by Microsoft. Very powerful. What this does is actually prevent lateral or control lateral movement on the PC itself to prevent any programs or applications from writing to folders. And most of that is how viruses operate, by writing or manipulating the critical system files, especially in the case of ransomwares on the computers. So this feature adds an additional layer of security. Let me quickly show you that feature. So let me quickly go to that feature, control folder access. Right. I do not have this one. Okay. My computer system, if you have a third-party antivirus installed, then you will not be able to see this feature that I'm showing. So in Windows 10, then you simply go to Windows Defender. Once you get to Windows Defender, you click on Virus and Threat Protection, right? So Security Center, Virus, Threat Protection, and then from there you go down to Control Folder Access, right? So protect your files and folders from unauthorized change by unfriendly applications. So this also adds an additional layer of security in terms of read-write access to applications on the computer system that you can use, right? So you go down. Once that is done, then you add the protected folder. So every single thing that you want to be protected in terms of read-write access, then you can then add this section, right? Then you can also allow the apps that needs to, right? So if control folder access has blocked an app you trust, you can add, right, allow the apps that you want to run, right? And these are the ways in which you can actually go about turning on that particular feature that is set, Alright, so you can actually do some research on this as well. Alright, and I will also provide a description on a link to this website on in the description provided. Alright, so let's just quickly go back to see if we have. Alright, and one of the very key things, very critical things that you can also enable on your endpoint device to add security is to back up data. It cannot be overemphasized. The data is the most critical, or one of the most critical elements within a network. Apart from the persons who use the data is what the organization operates from or use to carry out the day-to-day functions. So protecting the data. Now, data backup can be done from an orchestrated, centralized management perspective. But in the case that you do not have such mechanism in place, then it can also be achieved from a local perspective. Right? As I said before in these videos, I will just show you a simple step things that you can do on endpoint devices if you do not have enterprise solutions in place, which not many organizations have. So you simply go to the computer system, start, right? Control panel, sorry. You could go, yes, control panel. Once you go to control panel, sorry, not there. You just go to backup, right? So you just type in backup settings. Once you go to backup settings, right, then you go to add a drive, right? Then you remember you cannot back up data to the you have to have an external device that you actually back up to. So you'd have to have a flash drive. It could be a network drive. It could be some external drive that you want to safeguard. Once that is added, right, then you go to more options as it relates to backup. Right, you could see advanced settings. Right, so in this case, you could actually run a backup to this file right now. So if you turn off, right, you could also go to your advanced settings, right, and you could play around with all of those necessary features as it relates to your backup. So once that is selected, then you can go back to here, click on backup, right, and you go to more options, right, click on more options. I'm just waiting for that to pop up on our screen. This normally takes a little time to display. Alright, so let us wait for this. Alright guys, so once that has been loaded, then you notice your data is not yet backed up. You could click on it easily and you run a quick backup from your computer. Right, you could set the time when you want the files to be backed up, daily, hourly, whichever the case is. Right, keep my backups forever, 2 years, 1 month. Right, then you back up these folders, or you could even add folders that you want to back up. Right, and these are the list of things that you want to back up. You could even exclude folders. Now if you want to remove that drive and to add an additional drive, then you have to say stop using drive, and then by doing that you are able to add a new drive for backing up your devices as required. Alright, so with that said guys, I will see you in my next videos, in which I will show you ways in which you can go about stopping unnecessary services from running on your computer system. I'll also be showing you great tools that can be used for network security, vulnerability testing, to secure your system overall. Arsenal of tools that you as an admin or system administrator or security person should be using to enhance and improve the security of your corporate network. Alright.